Other uses of language in this story that are important would be the references to nature. And these references to nature are purposeful because Native Americans share a strong connection to the natural world. If you weren't noticing all these so much the first time you read it, and I think if you read it again, it would really strike you. So we know at the beginning of the story when Victor and Thomas were in the trading post, and Victor is wondering about how Thomas knew his father had died. Thomas tells him, "I heard it on the wind. I heard it from the birds. I felt it in the sunlight. Also, your mother was just in here crying." So in this one, we work in a little humor because first of all, it seems like this is the kind of person Thomas is who would have had that spiritual connection to be able to hear it, the news on the wind, or be told that by the birds or from the sunlight. But it could just be a little bit more mundane than that. The fact that what would be the reason for Victor's mother to be in the trading post crying. Another time, though, that there's a reference to nature, and it seems to be important, is when Victor was 12, he stepped into an underground wasp nest, and Thomas rescued him. So this is one of the things that he remembers when they're on the journey. And so again, reevaluating Thomas and the experiences that he had with him. Here, Thomas saves him because it would have been very painful, right, for it to have been covered with these wasp bites. And then there's a time where Thomas jumped off the roof of the tribal school and flapped his arms like a crazy eagle. He fell and broke his wing, but not before he flew for a second. So again, it's kind of like an archetype as well here, because every culture across time, has envied the birds their ability to fly. And so the eagle, we know, is considered to be like one of the most important, meaningful birds. And so for Thomas to have that courage to jump off the roof and try to fly shows that, again, he's not afraid to take chances. He's not afraid to do something that all the other boys would like to really be brave enough to do. But they're not, again, willing to take that kind of a chance. And he did fly for just a little bit, right? He had that freedom of flight that again, the Native Americans wish they had, just like many other cultures wish that they had. And then on their way back, Thomas runs over the jackrabbit in Nevada. And this jackrabbit is the only living creature they have seen in the whole state. And they decide that the jackrabbit must have committed suicide. So, again, we might think it seems really inconsequential for him to run over this jackrabbit. But for them, it's important. They didn't want to kill any animal there unnecessarily. And so, that they stop the car or they stop the pickup, and then it's like, okay, Victor, you better drive. If this is what's going to happen when I drive. And of course, that final story about Victor's father rising like a salmon. So you can go through, and I think there are probably some other examples in the story as well. But in Native American culture, you don't want to be cut off from nature. You don't want just to be in the modern technological world and not appreciate these aspects of nature that are important to human life, and that would make human life less meaningful and would kind of invalidate everything that they have been taught about how the world works. Then there are some allusions. We know there's an allusion to Denny's when Victor's father takes Thomas to eat there at a specific place that everybody's very knowledgeable about. And then there's the references to the Olympics and the Native American Olympic athletes. So, not just with Kathy on the plane, but when when Victor is remembering when they were young, and they were meeting up with the bike to go to see the fireworks. And so Thomas says, and the judges award him a 9.95, the highest score of the summer, when Victor jumps off the porch on the 4th of July when they're about to go see the fireworks. And then, when Thomas pulls Victor from the wasp nest, they run faster than Billy Mills, faster than Jim Thorpe. And so there's a particular reason for choosing the names Billy Mills, Jim Thorpe, both Native Americans. And then Billy Mills won the Olympic gold in the 10,000 meter race in Tokyo in 1964. So, allusion to a Native American who did very well in his sport, someone that they can look up to and admire. And then Jim Thorpe was really an all-around excellent athlete, and he was the first Native American to win Olympic gold for the United States. He won Olympic gold medals in the pentathlon and the decathlon in 1912. So it's just no accident, right, that Kathy is a gymnast. They want to pull in those references to the Olympics and the fact that there are Native Americans who have done well in the Olympics, not just white women like Kathy. Themes in this story? Well, first of all, loyalty to members of your community is very important. Even though Thomas and Victor have not been friends for years, Thomas still sticks with Victor, goes on this journey with him. And the past should not be forgotten, but sometimes it needs to be re-examined. So Victor stewing about what had happened to him with his father, choosing a path of just drinking and fighting and not really doing anything with his life. He had to re-examine his past to feel like maybe he could move forward in a better way for himself. Human life is inextricably bound to nature, as I've gone on about it quite some length. And then humans are storytelling animals, and there is wisdom in the stories they tell. So Thomas shouldn't just be ignored, even though there's a changing world and Native Americans don't have the same kind of culture in the past. Humans tell stories for a reason, and there's something to be learned from them. The archetypes in this story? Well, first of all, as we've gone over in depth, the hero's journey. And so Victor travels from the reservation to Phoenix, sorry about that error, and back again. And this journey makes him remember his past with Thomas and causes him to learn some things about his father and himself. And then, of course, there's the title of the story. So we get the archetype of death and rebirth. So Phoenix, if you know about that story, according to the ancient Greeks, when a phoenix dies, a new phoenix is born from its ashes. And this bird is closely associated with the sun. We're thinking of that hot phoenix sun that Victor's father bakes in for 2 weeks. So Alexi's title makes perfect sense in this context. Victor's father dies in Phoenix, his ashes are cremated, and probably both he and his son are reborn from these ashes. So the father is a salmon, being able to return home, Victor being able to have an appreciation of Thomas, his father, and then what he can maybe accomplish in his future.